Last week's episode of Promised Neverland served as a strong introduction with many new elements to the series being added with new friends or foes. This episode, we got our answers, but something infinitely more curious and interesting is happening behind the scenes that you may have missed. So in today's video, we'll be discussing my theories, comments, and criticisms for many events in episode 2 from Mujica and Sonju, the secrets of the vampiric Vita plant, and what the hell is going on with the world of Promised Neverland, and an interesting theory you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed my content. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later. Getting right into it, based on the last episode, I theorized that Mujica and Sonju's alignments could go either way. But in reality, they're actually trustworthy demons. I had theorized previously that there were sort of like factions of demons who didn't agree with others and would abstain from their practices, like how there are vegetarians in this world, if that makes sense. Mujica and Sonju are just like that, and they choose not to eat humans for religious reasons. This in turn really makes the demons seem more than just your blanket antagonistic threat of the series. They're now much more than that. They have color to them. And not only that, but it helps our protagonist actually gain some sort of meaningful knowledge in this world to learn from. Sure, these kids are essentially the best of the best in regards to genetics and knowledge, but there are some things that these kids have to learn through experience, and in this episode we see a lot of that knowledge that these two demons have being passed down to them. There is more to come from this as well. I find it fascinating that demons don't actually have to eat humans to survive. This isn't a situation where they need it. This is a situation where they simply desire to eat them in the same way that you desire to eat that triple bacon cheeseburger heart attack with a milkshake on the side. Okay, maybe not exactly in that way, but I do think that this suggests demons think and value things in much different ways than humans do, thus coming off as way more alien. And that's really important because of what we learn about Earth in this episode. And while we'll get to that later in the video, I do have to say that I really like Sonju and Mujica a lot. Sonju is probably my favorite out of the two. Not only is he of the Lancer class, he is as tall as a Lancer, has cool air, probably better luck than Lancer, and is generally very knowledgeable on the forest and current setting of the series. I actually found the dynamic so far between Mujica and Sonju really interesting. It seems while Sonju has taken on the role of hunter for this episode, Mujica stays back to help out with the kids. I found the vibe that she was giving off was somewhat of a maid or a caretaker, even mother kind of dynamic to these kids. Along with Sonju, she taught the kids how to start fires, boil with a pot, and all these kinds of things that are detrimental to surviving. It really shows how good-natured of a person Mujica is in this episode to pass down this knowledge so willingly. It makes you wonder as a whole just how excited they could possibly be to see humans or anything out in the middle of this forest. It makes you wonder as a whole just how excited they probably are to see humans or really anything that can talk out in the middle of this forest. A neat little scene that I think was really underrated in this episode is the scene between Emma and Gilda that was somewhat your typical humorous interaction with a serious message behind it, but really did a lot for the supporting cast as a whole. Gilda in this scene goes to Emma and expresses how worried she was over Emma fainting. She pretty much threatens Emma, tells her to stop pushing herself and to stop being reckless. This scene to me pointed out a legitimate flaw in Emma as a person. She is too reckless, so is Ray, which Gilda says as much. Thus, Gilda grounds Emma back down to reality to make her realize that everyone depends on Emma and Ray, and if even one of them were to go down, then it would severely hurt the group as a whole. But it isn't only Gilda who scolds Emma. The others as well scold them, in particular, Ray. Ray even makes poor Jemima cry. Even the other kids like Lannion point out how reckless he is, teasing him about all the times he was going to do a heroic self-sacrifice, which is a really funny line because it's a little self-aware humor. This scene shows me that these kids aren't just kids that were put through this horrible circumstance that they're strangers. They're not. They're actually family. Each one of these kids are brothers and sisters. They rely on each other, worry about each other, and only wish for a future full of happiness. Another small scene is the montage where we see Sonju and Mujica teach the kids their secrets. They learn how to make maps, use a mortar and pestle to make medicines, ointments, and pastes. Sonju even teaches them how to use a bow. All of this is returned back to Sonju and Mujica with gratitude. This leads into a really important scene where Emma and Sonju go out to hunt as Emma wants to learn how to do so. Emma hesitates to kill a bird, but realizes that she has a family to protect and provide for, and thus forces herself to do so. This is where one of the coolest scenes in the episode occurs. We learn about more of the demon's religions and values when Sonju hands Emma a Vita plant. This plant is like a vampiric plant which drains all of the blood in the body if stabbed through the heart. Not only does it make preserving the meat easier, but as well is seen as a dedication to the gods. This ritual is known to the demons as Gupna and is painless as it doesn't work without respect, and thus Mujica reassures Emma that her brothers and sisters who fell to this did not suffer. I love this part. It showed that even the demons in control of farms hold this belief and partake in this ritual in some sense, but also it showed to Emma just what it takes to survive out in the wild. Hunting, killing other living creatures for food, it's all very difficult when they themselves have experience being the livestock before. But now I want to get to the last portion of this episode and what I think most people need to take away in regards to the world building. So we are on Earth, and I was wrong about my theory from last episode that we weren't. Except this time Earth doesn't seem like itself anymore, and there are a lot more dark undertones going on between the humans and demons. Let me explain. Thousands of years ago, the world was very different. There were plenty of humans to be hunted and eaten by the demons. This obviously didn't sit well with humanity, who then started to kill and fight back against the demons, which eventually led to a war. Until one day, the humans came to the demons to look for an agreement. If they split the world between the human and demon sides, then they could have the humans on their side that are existing as a gift, as their own property to keep, to raise as cattle to then feast off of. Just normal stuff like that. From what I gathered, this agreement means that in essence, the humans literally sold out their own to the demons. To try and rationalize their decisions, I assume they thought that the only way to appease the flesh-eating demons and to stop this war was to do what they did. If not, then the demons would eventually just break the treaty and then continue their war to feast on humans. As Sonju said himself, some demons at the mere sight of humans would salivate, like that episode of Demon Slayer where Nezuko was drooling like she saw a 10-course meal right in front of her. On top of that, we got one of the most interesting exchanges out of this conversation that I think completely changes everything we once knew about Promised Neverland. Mujica and Sonju are considered heretics by the wall-based demons, thus suggesting that while there could be plenty more like Sonju and Mujica, they are likely not as prevalent. Same goes for humans as well. They are not often seen outside the walls, which is one reason why Mujica and Sonju decided to save them. They were a rare sight to see, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. But the biggest drop is that the 30-year time period Emma and Ray know isn't exactly true. It's not true one bit. The reality is that things have been like this for years now. Not only that, but when Sonju gives out the agreement that they plan to, it's in quotes. This makes me wonder plenty of things. For example, the information that they were given inside Gracefield. Is any of that truly accurate? Also, if it's 2046 and this happened in 1046 or around that time, none of the capabilities humans have now, like their technology, it would all just be vastly different than what it is. My theory is the same one Rising Sun Review has, which we discussed on the Promised Neverland podcast, which you should check out, links are in the description. But if you don't have time, let me explain it. Essentially, with the arrival of the demon threat, they started over the calendar in the demon side, and the human side has a totally different calendar, and that calendar is probably some 1,000 years ahead. This would also mean that since the two sides are segregated like this, that the human side could possibly be more technologically advanced than the demon side, even though the demons seem to have very strong technology. Maybe they use weapons like guns, while the demon side uses their strength with melee weapons, sheer physical strength, and defense, thus relying more on nature around them. Of course, we will get our answers eventually, but I think it's a good shot. Also, we then have to take into account William Minerva. Is he even human at this point? Is he a demon? Is it more of a group, and would the human side even accept the humans who come to these farms? If the humans were so willing to give up the humans as a gift to demons, then maybe they would reject Emma and the others on the basis that they are their property and they don't even consider them humans from an ideological perspective. Either way, this episode was actually spectacular. Please comment below your theories on this episode and as well what you think of mine. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, but also check out Rising's podcast and check out my other videos on Attack on Titan, ReZero, and the other anime I'll be covering this season like Wonder Egg Priority, Beastars, Quintessential Quintuplets, Mushoku Tensei, and the weekly anime podcast King of Anime, where we're covering ReZero, Promised Neverland, Mushoku Tensei, Attack on Titan, and the worst anime of the season, X-Arm. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.